Okay, it looks like we're live now. So
Yay.
good evening, everybody. I'm Dustin Coiner from TrackDaz here in SoCal, and I'm on with the Superbike genius himself from Attack Performance Effort.
Okay,
I don't know,
like
Attack Performance Yamaha Racing.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Dustin Coiner from TrackDaz here in SoCal.
You get some echo there, man.
Okay. So I don't know what to call it. Attack Performance Yamaha.
It was Attack Performance Yamaha Racing. Yeah,
There you go. So
at least for that one event.
we've had a little bit of a break. I stayed in Europe, so I was like, dude, sorry, not doing the show.
You were there a week before, and then you left a week after.
Yeah, it's called a racecation.
You were in Eastern Mexico for like 3 weeks.
Wow, Eastern Mexico. That's harsh, dude.
I mean, Spain, Portugal, and Spain again, right?
Yeah. I mean, Lily and I kind of did the whole Euro trip thing, and it was pretty funny. We did take a train from Sevilla to Madrid after the Portimao race, and every time we went through a tunnel, we looked at each other and did the Euro trip thing, the movie, you know, mi scusi. Every time we went through a tunnel.
You missed all the lead up fun to this event.
Oh, for sure. So
Greg Arnold from Capit was heavily involved in all the. You can call me Superbike genius or whatever, but I'm definitely not shipping genius.
yeah, I mean this like I have it here. I mean, basically, like let's start it off like you guys leave Barber. You make a whirlwind trip. Like you left Barber, there's no banquet or anything, so you guys hauled ass home.
Yeah, we didn't even have a championship dinner. I know, like Tom, you get the chance to save a couple of bucks on a championship dinner. We all kind of like, oh, you remember family vacation when they go to the Grand Canyon? They all kind of got look at the Grand Canyon. They do,
like, yep.
Okay, and they were out. That was us after the championship. Yep, championship, boom, gone.
Oh man, it's so funny. It's so funny. Yeah, I mean, you know, talk a little bit about that. Like shipping, basically rushing home from Barber and spending a week basically turning your bikes into World Superbike ready, and then somehow packing them into, like, you throw all your shit into crates and then ship them off, right? Like how that
Yeah,
sounds
I mean the list was really long. I showed you the list of stuff we put in there. So basically, it's about with the weight of the crates, is about 3,000 pounds of stuff we shipped.
wow.
So it's 2 bikes, you know, all the wall system, everything we needed to, you know, so the other bike obviously had the second engine. You're allowed 2 engines for a wild card. So for event, for one event, whereas the real World Superbike teams, they get 1 engine for 2 events.
Okay.
That's their allocations. They got to go basically 1,100K or whatever. Each race is about 550, 600K. So they got to go 1,200K on an engine. And
Right.
if they, then there's penalties if you have to go into a spare engine or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
And anyway, so we boxed up all of our stuff and barely made it to the airport to drop it off, and we dropped off all the things, and Walker and I completely exhausted from driving back and loading everything. And first we had to change the engines to World Superbike spec because they're a different transmission with a lockout drum and all that stuff.
Right.
Next year we'll be able to do all that, so it'll just be a matter of changing fuel, changing mapping. But next year we'll have the same spec engine.
Right.
Which is nice. Make things a lot easier for a very small cost at that. Shift from, you know, it's like less than $1,000 bucks. But anyway, so yeah, we got everything ready. Went over to LAX, dropped off the crates. We're like, okay, go over to the clerk at Delta Cargo. Here's our paperwork. Here's this and that. Here's the carnet. What's a carnet? I'm like, uh-oh, this is not going to end well. They didn't even know what the heck they were doing, you know. So start explaining the carnet. It's like a visa. Like, well, what's the export price on this? You go, there is no export price. It's going there and coming back. That's what a carnet is. It's like a visa. If nobody knows. I think we brought that up the last time we were talking.
Yeah.
It's a visa for your stuff. So it goes there, it gets stamped in, and then the way out it gets stamped out, showing that you brought your stuff and brought it back, and you shouldn't have to pay any tariffs on, you know, a couple $100,000 worth of stuff you ship there, right, or more. And anyway, so. Yeah, the clerk looks a little confused, gets the manager helps out. Manager's a little confused. Okay, everything gets settled, we think. And we kind of come back home, and it's getting late, and get a call. we can't ship this thing. Like, what are you guys talking about? Well, there's a motorcycle in this crate. Yeah, that's what it said on the way bill. That's dangerous. Like, oh my God, we got to go through this now. So they screwed up the way bill and made it look like it was a bunch of parts we were shipping instead of complete vehicles.
Right.
And so then they need a different kind of dangerous goods certificate. So we went through all this crapola to get it done. Finally, Sergio and Lewis over at Schaefer got it all sorted, but it took an extra day. So the crates were about a day late now, which really, I mean, for a while there, those guys were being so over the top. This one guy there, his name was Xavier or something like that. He was like, well, what if my family's flying on that flight and it blows up? I'm like, are you being a little dramatic or what? You know, so anyway.
It's gonna blow up. You didn't have any fuel in them or oil or anything, right?
No, there was a purge receipt. There was a purge certificate for the fuel tanks. So everything was drained. They could have x-rayed it. They were just like going out of their way to make it difficult. So finally, we got a guy that knows some people over there or whatever, and finally got it all sorted, and we were able to get him on the flight the next day. But here's the bad part. So they're supposed to land on Tuesday and get delivered to track. Wednesday is a national holiday in Portugal. So they land Wednesday morning, and now we got to pay OT, double time, all this stuff for the shipper that we had there to bring him down the racetrack. But they were able to do it. Miguel was really good. He organizes people, and they got the 2 crates down there, and they showed up Wednesday afternoon. We were able to set up and get ready. So disaster averted on that deal.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we just got our crates back today.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, on the way back, they lost the paperwork.
Oh well, naturally.
They lost the carnet with all the stamps from Portugal, from here, from there. So we had to. Luckily, we got carnet insurance, and they were able to get us a replacement one. And went to customs again, had it all restamped and certified, and got some of the paperwork from Miguel in Portugal. Showed that too, and then we were able to clearance them today after a couple of days of sitting in the warehouse. So 4 days sitting in the warehouse, actually. Yeah, it was nice.
When you guys
like I said, I'm definitely not the shipping genius, without a doubt.
No. So when you got back, did you let Walker go take a nap?
I went to LAX 5 times.
No shit.
5 times in the middle of the night.
Oh.
I mean, it was every time I pulled in my driveway, I get a phone call from those dummies saying, "Oh, this is wrong," or "That's wrong," or I'm like, I was just there. And then they held on to my driver's license. I was so tired the last go around, I walked off, and they're like, "Oh, we didn't give your driver's license back." I said, "Crap, it's not in the paperwork you gave me." All right. So then they said, "Well, did you take the TSA form?" I go, "That's the first form I signed when I got there on Saturday or Sunday or whatever it was. I can't remember." And they go, "No, we think you took it." And I'm like, "I didn't take it. You guys have." They lost the TSA form. So I had to go back up there. And this was
so LAX is
4:30 on Monday, right?
For those people that don't know, you don't live close to LAX, right? Like
about an hour and a half.
And
so 4:30, I'm pulling my driveway. The guy calls again. Same thing, like exactly same spot in the driveway. So I'm like, all right, it's a call from Inglewood. So I know if it's Inglewood, it's LAX. So I'm like, all right, what's going on now? Oh, the TSA form. Well, maybe we can have the guy that did the dangerous goods come over and sign it, because maybe he took it. I'm like, I don't think he took it. So I sit on the couch for a minute. They get a call back. No, you got to come up and sign it. I go, dude, it's 4:30. When's the thing going to take off? Well, we have to have it palleted and on the plane by 6. I'm like, oh, holy crap. So I go in the driveway, I jump in my Porsche, and won't start. The thing starts every single time. I go, this is not meant to be.
Wow, man.
The fuel pump's stuck. So I borrow a car to race up to LAX, get it signed like at 5:50. And I drove on in the HOV lane the whole way.
Of course you did. Of course
Yeah,
you did.
I deserve a fine on that one. Barely made it, got it signed, and the thing went on the aircraft. It was nutty.
Yeah, when we got there Thursday afternoon, you're like, dude, this thing almost didn't happen. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean it almost didn't happen? Like, I had our own drama, right? Like, I texted you on our way out, and I was like, yeah, dude, I don't know if it's gonna happen. Like, Canada nonsense, but
no, I mean, Greg from Capit, he was really good. he reached out to some contacts, and then we got a hold of Sergio and Lewis over at Schaefer, which were right there in El Segundo, which is right next to the airport. And they sorted the last bit of paperwork out, that those guys were confused about, I guess. Like I didn't talk their language. So I couldn't help them out with the stuff they were confused about. So anyway, that got sorted. And then of course the paperwork got lost. And then Sergio again had to go and sort that out on the return trip. Like, what the hell's going on with these people?
Wow, man.
Shipping's like this secret society, I think.
Yeah, you got to know the secret handshake.
You do.
Yeah. I bet if you slipped that dude a hundo the first time, you wouldn't have.
Yeah, that's who told me that. You put $100 bill on the second page of the carnet, and it goes through every time.
That may be, man. There may be something to that. I get some comments already.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see here. We got Chris Simcoe from the Pin the Gas podcast. He wants to know what's the difference for setting up the bike between MotoAmerica and World Superbike.
Pretty different.
Yeah.
Like so when we got there, we asked to borrow some stuff from the Yamaha World Superbike team, like a table and a few things we don't want to put in the crate. We don't want to ship a table, and it costs us more to ship a table than the table's worth. Right. So we got like a little data table, which they were so kind to give us, and then they gave us some electrical cords and all 220 stuff that we didn't have. A lot of it, a little monitor, things that just weren't worth shipping. And so then we started going over. Hey, so tell us a little bit about your setup. Worlds apart.
Really?
Yeah, as far as the front end goes, how they load the front tire, all that, like pretty far apart. But then we got to take it all with a grain of salt, because the way they have their fuel tank is different than the way that we have our fuel tank. Our fuel tank's pretty central. You've seen our fuel tank, how it comes off the bike. They run their fuel almost all the way to the end of the tip of the tail. I mean, they got a lot of fuel all the way back in the back. It's top rack brakes so hard, and Locatelli as well, and Gerloff, so they've shifted a lot of their fuel to the back to give those guys some bias. But with that, they've had to play a little bit with the rake and trail and numbers like that, the CG of the bike, to get a little more load on the front tire. Yeah, so the way they loaded the front tire was different than us.
I noticed that they also weld those plates to the steering head, and what else? Yeah,
they definitely rigid up the frame in certain areas. I had a nice conversation with their designer, the chief designer.
Yeah.
Ricardo TC. Yeah, really nice guy. I mean, the whole team was just outstanding.
Super nice.
I mean, it was just like, hey, after race one, we struggled pretty bad. Jake ran off the track, collected back up and had to go through a bunch of guys, was kind of stuck behind Nazani and a few other guys, and he worked his way up. Didn't get any points, but, considering what he ran off the track, was okay. And so anyway, we're like, hey, what was your air pressure in the tire in the middle of the race? Like, you know what? Their boss, Andrea De Soli, he said, just go over and ask those guys for the data. So Marshall went over and grabbed some data. They gave us like 4 or 5 laps of top rack and 4 or 5 laps of Locatelli. And we were able to see some of the stuff they were doing. And that's when we got a little bit of realization on some of the stuff that was happening with our bike. So it was pretty interesting. But they were, like I said, to back up a bit, they were super, super open book.
Yeah.
Anything you need, any kind of help you need. But you know how it is. It's almost like that thing where too many cooks spoil the pot. You can't go in there and then just start. When you have a bike, a rider, and everything's kind of used a certain way, even a crew chief and a crew,
right?
You can't just go and turn the table over and go, okay, we're going to do it a different way.
Yeah, I mean, after that first race, I remember at least 4 helpers coming over to offer ideas on how to fix Jake's turning in confidence or something.
We started off the weekend, so let's do this chronologically. We got there, set up. The bikes were a little late on Wednesday. We're supposed to set up Wednesday morning. We set up Wednesday afternoon, so not the end of the world. So we had all day Thursday to get everything kind of prepared and get our tires mounted and get everything ready to go for Friday morning. For World Superbike, you start fairly early because you're like the first guys on track Friday and Sunday. So Saturday and Sunday. Friday is a little bit later start, and so as soon as we roll out on on Friday, Jake does basically a heron. He went out and did like 2 laps and came right in. I'm like, oh, I wonder if the bike doesn't run, because he's not normally like that. He'll go out and he'll run, and try to get a feel for it. It's like, we got no engine brake. Like, the thing's freewheeling in all the corners. Like, Marshall and I looked at each other like, what are you talking about? Well, that's weird. It was like an engine braking strategy we know that worked on the Dunlops and even on the Pirellis when we tested the Pirellis. So we're kind of like, so without even looking at the data really, because I think we made a rookie mistake on day one straight away. Was we listened to the rider, not that he was wrong, it's just the engine brake problem wasn't coming from not enough throttle closure, it was coming from no grip on the rear tire.
Yeah.
On a green track.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. The track was green. And after that session, Dawsey said, yeah, we didn't have any good engine braking either, because the track is so green right now. And I said, new, there's no grip on the rear tire. So kind of blew it there. We wasted that session kind of chasing engine braking. We put so much engine braking in the thing. The thing was like howling the rear tire and skidding into the corner, and so to the point where he couldn't even tip in.
Oh, man.
He said, I've never heard the bike, basically the engine sound like it was idling going into the corner, because that's how much lockup we had on the rear tire.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so we kind of made a rookie mistake. Number one there was don't look at the data, rush the decision, and then rookie mistake number 2, sometimes I say this all the time, always take what the rider says with a grain of salt. It doesn't matter how experienced they are. You got to back it up with the data. So we kind of made a mistake there, not doing that. And then that put us on a wrong footing in the first session. And then I don't think we really recovered from it until maybe Sunday, maybe the Super Sport, the Super Bowl. Yeah, but then we were on our back foot. We really didn't have, we weren't to where we needed to be after Friday first session.
Right.
We roll off our bikes at the MotoAmerica race. We know what we have straight away, so we can rip off laps instantly. But going into that, it was just so new. The track, the amount of grip, the morning, the way the Pirelli tires acted in the morning.
So there's some more questions coming in. This Pinky person has a few questions, but I'll start with one of them. Would you and your team go back to another World Superbike event?
Yes.
I mean, I know that you were talking shit to the kid from Argentina. What's his name? Zavi? Right?
Mercado? Toddy?
There you go.
Leandro Mercado?
Toddy Mercado, yeah. You were talking to Toddy and you're like, yeah, dude, we'll go to Argentina and stay at your house.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's like, oh, we got great steaks and this and that.
Yeah.
He goes, bring the bike and I'll ride that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that'd be cool. I'm down. You say the word, man.
Argentina was one of the places I really wanted to go.
Oh, yeah.
But, I think that the best way to approach it is to, if you really want to be competitive in that class, that you need to go to the same track more than once.
Yeah.
These tests of those tracks. Those guys have all been doing it for so long. The biggest difference, I think, that was between those riders and what we do here in the States is how hard they brake.
Yeah.
And how deep they brake and how they're able to hook the corner, even though they're braking so deep.
Yeah. They're braking super late. And we talked about it before, right? And, was it Paul Denning, I think is the dude's name? And he was saying on that.
The principal of Crescent?
Yeah.
Superbike team? Yeah.
Yeah. So that dude was saying the top rack goes from like 0 to 20 bar, like boom.
I didn't see that in his data. I think that might be at some tracks.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it at Portimao because we got some of the top racks fastest laps.
Yeah.
I can't show the data, I can't share it.
Right.
I know what I'm looking at.
Right.
And he was in the 13, 14 bar range. I could probably pull it up and tell you exactly, but he wasn't a 20 bar.
Okay.
But it may be, like I said,
It's
at some tracks.
Yeah.
At some tracks, you might be able to do that. I didn't see it at Portimao, and that definitely not coming down that hill, breaking in turn 1.
All right. So we got some more questions here. Let's see. There's people like loving the sign above you. That's the sign that was supposed to be for the garage, and they literally just handed us the decal, right?
They said, yeah, here we are in Portugal, and they give us a rolled up decal. I'm like, what are we supposed to do with this?
Yeah.
Well, you're supposed to stick it on the garage. I'm like, where's the rest of it?
Yeah. So
And
it's like,
you know, we went. So you ran down to town. I found a decal
yeah.
shop, and the guy was all into racing, right? So
Dude, the guy was a mega fan. And you know, we had to print some stickers too for another set of bodywork or whatever. But yeah, the guy was like, sure, I'll do that. And the guy has like other stuff going on. Like
he was working all night. He told me I have an all night project. And
yeah.
The door will be closed, but I'll be here. Just knock.
Yeah, I did. I rang the doorbell. He came down from upstairs and walked me up there, showed me all his machines. He's like, look, what do you need? And I was like, well, it's got to be about this big, and I need to mount this. And he showed me a bunch of different materials to mount it on.
Yeah, he was set up.
Yeah, he was dialed in. And then when we had to remake the stickers, right, because they were a little too big.
Too big, yeah.
Yeah, I called him up, and you know, he stopped what he was doing. So I missed the warm up on Sunday. Rolled over there, and he knocked it out before he went to do his job or whatever. Like the dude was a big fan, man. So yeah.
Yeah, he was good. I mean, everyone. I mean, all the people I ran into in Portugal were super friendly.
Yeah.
Did you get the same?
Absolutely. Everywhere we went, it was the same way. It's pretty funny. Was it Thursday night? I think it was Thursday night. Lily and I, we ended up at this place for dinner. It's like on a rooftop or whatever. We're having a Portuguese steak. And it's basically a steak and gravy with chips. Right?
Yeah.
It's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. This is good. And I'm sitting there and I look over next in the table next to us, top rack.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the table behind them. It's was it
Abdul?
Abdul, yeah.
And Mihai, his mechanic?
Yeah, and his kid, you know,
Yeah.
his kid was racing the R3 thing. So
Yeah.
I was like, man, this is wow. We ran into Talkback on Sunday night too. Like we're coming back from dinner and he's hanging out having a gelato.
Well, he's Turkish.
Yeah.
They have gelatos in Turkish, their own version. I mean, Turkey.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy, man. But man, a bunch of questions coming through. Let's see here. The other guy from the Pin the Gas podcast thing, Andy, he wants to know, can you explain how that neutral switch thing works?
Yeah, sure. So they put neutral on the other side of first. So it goes neutral, first, second, third, fourth. So they take and they cut different grooves in the drum. So it kicks it from second to first, just like you're going from third to second. There's no neutral bump in the middle. And then you click it one more time, it goes in neutral. But so they have a pin that goes down into the drum. So imagine the drum's rotating like this.
Yeah.
And there's like a little paw on the drum. So when you release the pin comes down and it won't go into neutral. So when you pull the lever, the pin comes up and then you can go into neutral.
Okay.
So then as soon as you put the lever in race mode, the spring preloads the lever or preloads the pin. And then as soon as the thing locks out, it's like a sear on a rifle, you know, it won't go back.
That's awesome.
You know, so and then go second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, like that, or first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. As soon as you click all the way back into first, it hits the pin, and you can't get neutral by accident. So neutral is basically out of the equation. It doesn't mean you can't go between two gears, but it's almost impossible, really, with a modern transmission to go between two gears. You know, I guess the transmission is really beat up, and that might happen. But yeah, it's a really cool device, and I'm glad MotoAmerica allowed us next year to put it in there. You know, so we're one step closer to having a proper superbike.
Irate Berry talks about speaking about setup and geometry. Like if he doesn't have tools like a rapid laser, is there any pointers helping you out measuring?
The measuring thing isn't so critical. I mean, lasers and checking your frame straightness. It's more knowing the numbers. You know, like we talk about this preload. How much preload on the shock? What's the length of the shock?
Yeah.
What type of linkage do you have? All that stuff. We use MotoSpec as a baseline. You know, I use a CAD program to spec out the whole bike, all the measurements. You know, so we know all the frame measurements are from drawings from, let's say, Yamaha or from MotoSpec or wherever, and you put it in there. There might be some variance from frame to frame, but they're awfully small these days with modern machining technology.
Yeah.
Like, we machine the pivots on the Yamaha R1 frame, so they're adjustable. And man, when we line up the different frames and the machines, they're super freaking close to each other. You know, it isn't like you go and you zero in on a frame hole and you're like, wow, that thing's off by a millimeter. It's never that far off. So you could pretty much trust the numbers that MotoSpec has, and then you put in all your variables in there, like front ride height, tire diameters, your offset in your clamps, your shock height, your spring preload, your springs, your oil level. You put in all the different variables, and it'll give you some information that's useful for setting up your bike. And you can compare from session to session if you make changes. So what did I do when I did this? Oh, I reduced trail, or I changed the CG of the bike, the center of gravity, or I changed the anti-squat, or I changed, you name it. There's all kinds of stuff you can look at with those kinds of programs. You don't need to have a laser.
So, there's a bunch of comments, but we talked about it offline, and we talked about it at the track too.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna lay it out there. GW and JP talked about it on their podcast.
Yeah.
Like, how come your bike was so slow in the speed traps?
Yeah. After session 2,
you're down on power, dude. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. No, after session 2, I'm like, what the hell? Because we know what kind of numbers our bike made on the dyno. I'm like,
yeah, dude.
I wonder, because our bike was a little, when it rolled out, we tuned to the dyno with a ETS fuel, which is what I think Gerloff's team uses. I think the factory team uses ELF, and the junior team uses ETS. So we got the same fuel, and they said they both made the same power. And yeah, it was a little bit better than the VP, and probably a little bit more reliable compression, things like that. So we got with the factory team, said, what kind of compression numbers you guys running? Like, oh, this is really confidential, don't say, but it's like X. I'm like, we're pretty much there, right? So we show up, we got really good dyno numbers on our dyno, and we roll out, and I'm like, the first run, the bike was a little lean because it had good air. So then the next run, next session, the bike kind of was a little bit slower. And I go, man, I wonder if we hurt the engine. I was getting ready to change the engine. And then that's when, after session 2, we got some data from Top Rack and Locatelli and realized, the braking zone, which is beacon 20, we record all this stuff, right, in the data.
Right.
Beacon 20 is really pretty deep into the straightaway. Like, it's like F1 MotoGP style, what do you call it? Beacon, where the trap speed is.
Right.
So where the trap speed was, like I said, it's really deep, and you have a hard time getting to it if you're not braking really deep. So looking at Locatelli's and Top Rack's data, I mean, those guys, like clockwork, would brake right at the trap speed mark. So that trap speed is like at the end of where a street bike could possibly stop accelerating.
Yeah.
It's really made more for F1 or MotoGP. It's almost in the braking zone. So for us, since Jake wasn't so comfortable going in the corner, he was braking and downshifting before the trap speed. So after I saw our GPS numbers and their GPS numbers, I'm like, phew, we're not that bad. We just have a rider that's not quite confident on the front tire. Wow. And I can show you this. I have it on data. I brought it up. And I know the trap speed those guys recorded and how fast Top Rack was going. So
let's look at it.
Yeah, so Batista was 315, so he must have been as fast as that thing is. He must have been just braking slightly before. And Top Rack was 317.8. Ray was 315. Rinaldi, another Ducati, was 309. Lowe's was 311. Locatelli was 310. These are the best in race 2. Redding was 308. Vierge on the HRC bike was 308. Gerloff 313, 307, 312. I'm looking at all this stuff, it's all over 300. And then ours was like 298. It was just shy of 300.
Wow.
So, and again, rookie mistake, right? If we would have put up all the beacons on our data and showed Jake, hey man, you're braking really early, that he would have pushed. he would have found that brake marker, you know? So rookie mistake number 2, because we're so, you think about it, you go there, you're like, oh, this is gonna be easy. We're just gonna roll out our same bike. We're gonna put some Pirellis on it, right? And he's gonna go have to learn this track. Everything's bitching. And they're like, oh, the bike won't slow down or this or that. He runs off the racetrack, comes back on, and then he gets, I wouldn't say he's spooked, but he backs up his brake marker to make sure he nails that corner every time.
Right.
So if going forward, if we were to do this again, spend a lot of time on the front geometry, trying to make sure we took full advantage of that Pirelli tire. Because the Pirelli tire offers a different kind of grip than the Dunlop does. You approach the Dunlop in a different way on the braking zone and how you tip in the corner. And so with a Pirelli, you could run different rebound damping, you could run different springs, you could run different top out spring, you could run a different rake angle. It all depends on how your bike loads it. So there'd be a little bit more work, a little bit more preparation and making sure that we tested. And also, we go out to Buttonwillow, let's say, and we ride that Pirelli tire and we're like, wow, we're going as fast as Dunlop. It's pretty cool, right? We're doing good.
Yeah.
We should be good. And then we show up and like, fuck, those guys are way faster. They're braking so hard and they're using so much of that front grip. And that's the one thing we can't help the rider with too much other than geometry. Like on the rear, you can accelerate and we can help you with traction control, wheelie control, all the rider aids, right?
Yeah.
And but on the front, the rider's got no help. It's him and the brake lever. You follow what I'm saying?
Oh,
all
yeah.
We can do is help him with some geometry.
All weekend long, Jake was saying, yeah, man, I'm on my knee. And all of a sudden, the dude in front of me, he's like, I'm looking up the turn. And all of a sudden, the dude's just like, his rear tire's coming away from me.
No, the acceleration part, we were good. We gave up almost all of our time on braking entry.
Yeah.
It was like 4/10 in turn 1. Just in one turn 1 and 2 was like 4/10. And I think turn 3, we gave up another 2/10. So just that whole first section where you're really bearing down on trail braking. Anyway, I can show you this this data.
I mean, just talking about it, go ahead and pull up the data, but just talking about
Yeah.
it, those dudes, we realized it right away. Like as soon as we saw them, they're fucking lunatics, right? Like
as soon as they roll out, those guys are going for it. They're not, and that's the thing too, is we can talk about this a little bit, is we haven't really been challenged that hard in MotoAmerica.
Okay.
From 20, it was kind of a cakewalk. I hate to say it, and I don't want to talk bad about our competitors because they're all trying, they're all trying really hard.
Right.
But, Cameron Bobier, it was like almost boring going to the races, right? And he had a lot of momentum going in the corner and he had a good acceleration too. So I think he's going to be a pretty good competitor next year. That's you. It's not me.
No, it's my computer.
So anyway, then 20 and 21, we went 117 out of 20, leading from the front. And this year was a little bit tougher because Jay crashed a few bikes and trying to pull ahead and try to work the bike. And I think that we just haven't been challenged enough to push ourselves as hard as is required to run in that class. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was a wake-up call. I kind of went into it with that idea. Like people said, oh, you're going to be in the top 5, the top 10 easy. I was like, I don't know, man. That's a whole other level.
You kept saying that the whole time, like every time I poked you about results, what you think you're going to do. And you're like, we'll see how it goes.
No, what I said was, I said, we're in high school and those guys are in grad school.
Yeah.
We're graduating high school.
Based on what I saw over there, I mean, I don't know, I'm getting ahead of myself because we're kind of tangenting away from the data. But, what I saw over there, I mean, those guys, from what you guys have compared to what they are working with, I mean, they have 26 full-time guys there just on that team, right?
Yeah. No, I get that. I don't even care about that.
Yeah.
I don't care about the amount of staff. It's about the creativity. We have enough people to do the job.
Oh, 100%.
We had 2 good chassis guys. Will and Lee were there. They would take care of the chassis perfectly. Yeah. I mean, there was no reason to. I mean, Walker was there taking care of the wheels and tires. And Corn Dog, he's been in that paddock a bunch. And Mats from Olin's was over there with us. And we were getting data from the factory team. If we wanted to use any of their components, they would give us a shock if we wanted. And probably, if we borrowed a set of forks, we probably could have got that. there just isn't enough hours in the day to take advantage of all that.
Yeah.
You know, you get 45-minute sessions. You know, there's enough time.
They did have one guy that you guys don't have. Like, that's where the advantage comes from. You know, they have a cup of tea guy. So
Cup of tea guy.
Oh yeah, they got a dude that's his job is to make cups of tea.
What? An Italian tea with tea?
That's what the dude said.
No way.
That's what he said. I was like, oh.
That must have been for Paul Denning.
I'm
He's
like,
the Brit on the team, right?
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start working on making cups of tea. So like when you get, I think we need to call Tom and see if we get budget for a cup of tea guy. Then boom, problem solved, right?
That's it.
I'll be your cup of tea engineer.
I mean, I know we're getting off on a tangent, but how good was their hospitality?
Oh, the Yamaha Hospitality was amazing. Yeah.
Wasn't it something?
Yeah. It's basically two semis that they build a building in the middle.
Yeah, it was basically the equivalent of a two-story building.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was all open sky.
Catered breakfast, lunch, dinner.
It wasn't open air, but it was like the whole glass building, basically, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't glass, so I'm sure it was plexi or something, but
yeah,
it was just super nice.
You check in with the lady. I talked quite a bit to her because I was like, you're on this circus like full time. Yep. They live there, dude. Like they live in like RV or something behind the hospitality thing. So they're like dark 30 in the morning every day.
Yeah, I remember when they used to come to Laguna back in the 2000s, right? The World Superbike would come.
Yeah.
And then you would see the guy, like the mechanics pouring out of some of the semis and going over to get the showers.
Yeah.
And that was for some of the lower classes. But yeah, I didn't realize they actually had like extended the traveling circus to now, you know?
Yeah.
Like you didn't really see the guys around town.
No, they never left. They never left.
Because dinner at the hospitality was like 7.
Yeah.
So I wondered, are they driving a hotel or are they all staying at the hotel? They had a 5-star hotel near the track, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And so they might have all been staying in that hotel. I don't know. I didn't ask.
Well, the people in that hospitality said that they sleep in the hospitality thing. Like there's
in the trailer.
Yeah. Because they got to be there so early to do breakfast. So,
and they're there till 7 at night.
Yeah. How about the Pata snack chips?
I didn't have any.
Really?
No.
I don't know.
Good?
They're pretty good, man. I was like,
I don't know. I was glued to that cap, you know, with the time change, not that it really bothers me that much. And then the early wake up, and then of course, you know, we're tangenting, but you know, since we were late, Walker and I changed our flight to go with the bikes.
Yeah.
We didn't land till Wednesday morning. By then, there was already a national crisis for Jameson whiskey at the hotel. I think Will and Lee had drank all the Jamesons.
Oh, shocker.
And by the time the whole team left, I think there was a national crisis for beer in the whole country.
Yeah,
I think we emptied just about everything that was empty.
I do not doubt that.
But the cappuccino machine was a lifesaver. The guy making the cappuccinos at the hospitality.
Yeah, I mean that guy. Lily had that guy working.
Yeah, Lee said, "Hey, man, it's not good to have cappuccinos after breakfast. You're supposed to have just espressos." I'm all about the cappuccinos, man. Forget about the espressos.
Wow. All right, so let's look at the fucking data.
All right. So anyway, so this is just let me show you. So this is something that, I mean, it was kind of not a wake-up call, but we know exactly what we have to work on if we go back. So let me just share the screen here. Share screen. There you go. So you see the screen here?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the front straightaway, right?
Yeah.
So this is where he shifts from 5th to 6th. So down here, you see the 6th gear, right?
Yeah.
He's running up there. And this is about where we hit, see those little squiggly lines?
Yeah.
We're hitting the limiter there.
Okay.
And so the bike stops, and see that right there? The 314?
Yeah, 314. Okay.
That's the GPS speed. So
okay.
And you can see that where the GPS speed here, that's not real speed, that's GPS speed. So that's real speed. So we were getting speeds 314, 315, 316 in that range, all the way down to 312.
Yeah.
And I think what we had was from the gearing info that we got from the factory team, we should have been another tooth taller.
Okay.
I think as soon as Jake hit the limiter, he went for the brakes. Like he'd roll off, hit the brakes. Now, see what it says, split 20 or beacon 20 here?
Yeah.
That's the trap speed beacon right there.
Okay.
That's identified as 20. So
he's rolling off.
He's already on the brakes. He's already at, let's see here, 8.25 bar brakes. Okay. So Top Rack would get 13, 14 here, but there was a technique to breaking down this hill. So Top Rack would brake about 8 bar, and then once the bike G'd out at the bottom, he'd go to 13, 14 bar type thing. You know, as soon as it G'd out, and I think it just takes a lot more getting used to get Jake to do the same. But you can see where he was rolling out and actually made one backshift back to 5th by the time he went past the trap speed mark. And after I saw that, I'm like, all right, we're good on the engine. We just got to keep working on our braking.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, again, you know, those guys are getting anywhere from 307 to 312 to 317 or something. I think was the fast. Let me see, who was the fastest. Yeah, Top Rack was the fastest at the trap speed at 317.8 in race 2. So again, it was all about where you broke. And just like I said, I think that, man, it'd be nice if I could show you those guys' data, but I can't. Those guys broke right at that beacon. So I think there was a brake marker right where the trap speed was.
Okay.
You know, because those guys like clockwork broke right there. So that must have been their brake marker.
That's really interesting, man. Like that.
Yeah.
And that's something that you would never think. You'd never say that about Jake, but you know, confidence on the front. I mean, that's everything, right? I mean, well,
we worked on our bike in a way that acceleration was really important. When you're not challenged, when you're not challenged, you want to run away from someone. What are you going to do? You're going to try to out drag race them out of every corner, right? So as long as you get a good start and you get through the first few corners and you can out drag race someone from corner to corner, you're going to leave them behind. Yeah. It doesn't matter how hard those guys break, you're going to leave them behind. And so I think this is something that in winter testing we're gonna work a lot harder on. At least that's my biggest priority. My biggest takeaway from this adventure was that we're weak on the brakes. You know, we need to go and work. That was our biggest dilemma. Our biggest problem was getting the rider comfortable to do that. And it might be that we just need to visit that track more than once.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Jake did get faster every time out. I mean,
he got down to 41.4, I think, in the Super Pole race on the same rubber, you know, that we used in race 2. And the other thing too was that I think, I mean, Jake's got his own view from the helmet looking out, you know, but I think that we haven't had to do the scrounging in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Haven't had to dive bomb people, you know, running up front. So that is something I think that we may end up doing next year. We might do a lot of scrapping if the BMW team and Cameron Bovia bring their A game.
Yeah,
we have to scrap a lot. So these are things I think that was important for us to go and experience with the world guys at that level.
Yeah,
you know, and we scored a point or whatever it did, and that was okay. You know, to finish 15th, I think that was okay. I think that's about where I thought. Okay, on an average day, that's probably where we're going to end up. If we did really well, we'll be in the top 10. It'd be a miracle getting the top 5. You know, so we beat Laverty. I think we out-qualified Vandermark. You know, those are no slouches we were near. I mean, if anybody knows those names, these are all winners.
Well, there was also
these are all past winners.
There was also that wild card dude from Yard, right? Like he runs Bridgestone, and he came over, and I think Jake beat him.
Oh, handily.
Yeah, and they're like a winning team. But
I don't know what yeah, but you know what? I don't
used to having 4 hours.
I don't count those guys because he's not a World Superbike regular.
Oh, okay.
You know, I look at the World Superbike regulars like Laverty.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that guy was or still is really competitive. Vandermark.
Yeah.
He won World Superbike races.
Yeah.
And so that was the group we're kind of running with. And Jake just he was right on that group. And then in race 2, like he could have, I think, easily worked his way, and I wouldn't say easily, I think he could have worked his way up into that 12th, place range because he was in a group which went from 10th to 15th or so.
Yeah.
If I remember right. And he was
ran
right
off
in that
like
group.
22nd.
What's that?
He ran off in that race during that little thing and got back to 22nd, worked his way up to 15th again. So
I have to go back and look at it. I don't remember that. I wasn't taking notes, John was, so I don't remember which lap was what. But I know he ran off in the first race. And then he worked his way back through and he got stuck behind Nazani and a few other guys.
Yeah.
And then it took a while. And the problem is when you run around with those guys, it sounds like I'm making a lot of excuses. Maybe I am, I don't know.
No.
But
he said he's behind the dipshits.
Yes. I mean, the thing is when you go to like a track day, right? You ride with guys that are track day guys. You ride terrible too.
Thanks.
Because you just can't run your lines that you used to.
Right.
Because every time you got a guy that's, whoa, where's he going? Or where's that guy going? Oh, because they're all learning, right? I mean, nothing against track day guys, but they're all out there having fun and learning. They're not out there cutting laps for to slicing tenths here and there. They're having fun. That's they're going to go to work on Monday. And so that was kind of the other thing too is we didn't get off into great starts in both races. The Super Bowl race was a bit better, but the lap time was good. I think he did a 41.4. I think it was if he was able to do 41s the whole race, I think it would have been top 10.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see here. There's some more commenters. This is actually a repeated comment. I saw this about the same comment on my Instagram, but this guy, Underdog 2015, he says, and I actually marked it. Here we go. Question for Richard. In 09, Spies went to World Superbike and immediately found success. How do you think Jake and your team were different or similar in your first outing in World Superbike?
I have to go back and look and see what success was for Spies. I don't know if he went out and won his first race, but as soon as he got in a rhythm, he was winning them. Yeah,
I think he did, but I think the difference is like he was over there on that team and he's tested a ton before in the off season and they were ready to go from the jump. Okay,
so what would be the difference? I think that we jumped into the season towards the end.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if we would have jumped in the season in the beginning and had done winter testing, and got Jake up to speed with the tire and the braking and had somebody to compare to, like going out to Buttonwillow by yourself. I was trying to say before, it doesn't give you a target. You're comparing to yourself, and you compare the lap times you did on Dunlops, let's say, in other tests, and you go, okay, I'm good. We're good. We're going to go there. We're going to be fine.
Also,
but if you showed up and you showed up to a Portimao test and you're like a second and a half back, you're going to go home and work on that. You're going to go home and work on the chassis setup. You're going to go home and work on your power delivery, your traction control, the anti-wheelie. The rider's going to be thinking about it. Every time he goes to sleep, he's going to think about how hard can I brake and what do I need out of the front end to be able to make it do the thing it's supposed to do. Hook the corner, accelerate still. So all those things are going to work on, and your lap times are going to come down. So then the limiting factor is how talented the rider is, because eventually you're going to get to that setup.
Right.
And Spies was a tremendously talented rider. So yes, Spies was I mean, it was miraculous what Spies did because Yamaha was unable to do that again until Top Rack.
Yeah, I mean, basically, Matt McComber lays it out, and I think everybody fans thought that Jake was going to do basically what Baz did. Jake beat up Baz all year long, and then Baz went over there and finished third last year, right?
It was kind of wet with weird conditions, but yes, Baz did a great job.
Yeah. Also,
Baz has been a World Superbike racer for a decade,
right?
Something like that. Since he was pretty young, and he's been racing World Superbike. I remember him riding the Cowie Factory team. He was Sykes' teammate when Sykes was winning the championships.
Right.
He was battling with Sykes for wins. So Baz was not a bad rider whatsoever. I mean, it was basically Baz going back to World Superbike was like him putting on a whole pair of jeans. Us going to World Superbike with what we know on the Dunlops was like Baz coming here and racing the Ducati. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
You know, or Petrucci, MotoGP winner, coming here and racing us on the Dunlops.
Right.
It's like, this is our little playpen, and that's their playpen. You go in there, you got to learn their toys. You got to learn the little nuances of the racetrack. You got to learn where you hook the corner. Oh, it's got a little bump right there. You know, we got the grip is low in turn 1, 2, and 3. You got to go in this way. Or, oh no, you got to brake super hard, the G out. All those little things take time to learn.
Yeah.
And especially with a motorcycle that hasn't been there before.
So, like, how do you rate your experience for that weekend? I mean, it's a giant pain in the ass to get all your stuff there and get going. Like, how do you think, like, what would you, 1 to 10 or whatever, what would you say? How did you say the weekend?
I'm pretty hard on myself. You really want me to say that stuff?
I know you're hard on yourself, but
no,
like,
I mean, anything short of racing for a win, I think is a failure.
wow.
So,
okay.
So we're always going to fail when we go there because it's going to be pretty hard to race for a win.
Right. Okay. That's fair. And then how do you think the experience in the paddock there was versus at home?
You know, I think those guys are, I don't want to bag on the MotoAmerica field because I think it's getting better.
Yeah.
But I think there's a little bit of insecurity in the MotoAmerica paddock. Everyone's trying to carve out that little niche of the job they have or job security or whatever they have, right? So everywhere in the World Superbike paddock, I mean, it was amazing how many people wanted to cooperate and help, even teams on other brands. I mean, as soon as I got there, Chaz Davies was chatting me up. I mean, I couldn't get any work done on Thursday because I felt like a freaking politician, you know, shaking hands and kissing babies.
I had to like run block. I was like, oh, he's kind of busy right now. Like,
you know, so I don't know if our reputation preceded ourselves or whatever. I mean, I don't think of ourselves as some great thing. We just happen to be winning races and championships in MotoAmerica. Okay, you know, it's not world level, and but it's not bad. You know, those guys come here and they get beat up. Right. So it's everything in reverse, right? Right. And so the reception was great. The what's the Cowie team that was next to us?
I forget, man.
You know, the one that Palprack rode for before Pacetti.
Pacetti, yeah.
Yeah, even the Pacetti guys were like, hey, if you need help with anything, whatever, you know, really nice guy. The what's the name? The French dude from the endurance team that's got a World Superbike guy now. Yeah. He was super helpful, you know, I mean, not helpful, but he was super open and anything you need.
Canepa?
No, Canepa is the team coach.
He's there.
He also rides World Endurance for Yard.
They explained to me that Canepa was their rider scout, and what the rider scout does is compiles video of all the riders and then compares it to your rider, like, hey, this dude's doing this and this versus shit, that's awesome.
Well, Canepa also worked with John on the Buell. Canepa rode the Buell when John was there on the World Superbike gig, right? Canepa rides Endurance for Yard. Canepa came here and rode the Westby bike when Matt was hurt in 2020.
Yeah, at Laguna.
Yeah, Laguna.
That's when I met him.
Super nice guy. And that's when he came by. He was talking to Jake, and our bike actually was really good on acceleration. In some spots, better than the factory guys. I think Massimo or somebody told us or told Marshall, who said, can't remember, it was Locatelli, something was behind Jake, and he says, the acceleration of the bike's really good. So they grabbed some of our data to take back with them as well. But like I said, I think the acceleration, the speed, and the power, I'm not depressed about any of that. I just wish we had a little more time to work the front of the bike. Yeah.
I mean, I know you guys had the bike tore apart. Like, it looked like you guys had a thing. You were putting the boys to work for sure.
No, it was the normal stuff.
Normal stuff, but it was like,
I don't think you must not pay much attention, or you haven't been to MotoAmerica races. I mean, the tank comes off, the shock comes off, all that kind of stuff comes off every section pretty much. So it was normal stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
turn the bike upside down. We changed the forks. We put in a set of forks that we tried with Cameron Peterson at the last two.
okay.
We really liked, and so we had Jake ride those for Sunday. But we again, rookie mistake. We burnt up one tire in a short stint, and we didn't have a decal left for Sunday morning. So we put a used tire on for Sunday morning. The track was so cold it just shredded the tire on both sides. Tore the tire like dramatically. So we didn't really have a good feel for that front end, but I think overall it was better than what was on there. So for race 2. But again, we're trying some fairly decent changes where those guys come with pretty much what they know.
Right.
What they've been running on all season. So it's like they jump
it's like
on.
You guys, I mean, they're basically like you guys. You show up to the track with your setup.
Yes.
The bike doesn't really change a whole lot during the course of the season with minor changes. And with you guys, it's like,
right? Well, I mean, you go there and you go, oh, we have no rear grip, or the bike doesn't hook like the other bikes do, because you get a chance to see them. Doesn't hook the corner as good, or whatever. So you find the weaknesses in your setup, and then you're trying to fix that through the weekend when those guys are just working on getting more speed. You follow what I'm saying? Like the riders work on more speed, and the changes are more subtle, more little electronics changes and more subtle changes on the chassis geometry side. We're making more wholesale changes. Maybe that's what you saw, like a whole different shock going in.
A whole different shock going in, a whole different forks going in. I know you guys had some discussion about changing the rake,
Yeah, we're talking about loading the bike, but our bike, the mass on our bike is different what they have. So you can't really go off their rake numbers, but so at that point you're like, well, I don't know what their bike's CG is. We're not going to go put scales into their bikes. I mean, at some point you're being rude when you're like, give me everything.
I mean, they
have a job to do themselves. So you're not trying to get in their shit too much,
I mean, those guys, if you asked them, they probably would have given it to you.
Like, I know, but at some point, you overstay.
I know.
You can't be that way. You got to figure out the stuff yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, that's how cool they were, though. They would have given anything you needed. It seemed like, and that engineer guy
within a certain window,
Ricardo, I think that's what his name is, the lead engineer guy. Like that guy he was talking about your gas tank.
Yeah, he really liked the gas tank, and
he said that they had tried it and had too much vibration or something. But then he pointed at your brackets, your billet brackets that you make. Oh, maybe perhaps we needed these.
Yeah, I don't know how they mounted theirs. Maybe they solid mounted the frame. I don't know.
Yeah,
but we have a damper system on our fuel tank and bracket mount.
Yeah.
So that because I think Pridmore, Hayes, Heron, what do you call it? JD Beach, Cameron Bobier, Cameron Peterson, Jake Gagne, they've all ridden that same fuel tank damping system, and not one person's ever said we have vibration.
Right.
Always you got excess amount of vibration.
Well, I mean, you did that based on your CRT project, right?
Yeah, same concept.
Yeah. Same
concept as the MotoGP thing.
And the other thing is, the crew chief guys, both Locatelli's and Top Rack's crew chiefs were coming over, and they were kind of on Thursday anyway, when it was not busy.
Yeah, they got busy. It's like we got busy.
Yeah, but they came over and they were all about your swing arm and the tank thing, and just the subtle differences between your bike and theirs.
Yeah, but we talked quite a bit about this. I mean, with Ricardo, we talked quite a bit about the suspension, the chassis flex, different things that they were doing on their bikes. I don't know how much that will apply to our Dunlops, but something interesting that we will probably work into our testing at some point. But for sure, every year we want to step up. That's why we keep breaking track records every year. Like the tires haven't changed since Cambodia rode our bike.
Right.
But we keep breaking the track records. And why is that? Because we keep improving something every year. And the bike hasn't changed. Like the engine package is basically the same. We always find a little more power every year. We find a little more grip. We find a little better turning. We have a little better anti-wheelie and traction control and all that kind of stuff. So For the next year, I think one of our focus is going to be is our braking performance, because I think we're going to have to mix it up a little bit. I think the racing is going to be a bit better next year.
So let's see, man, there's a bunch of questions coming in. August Nord, I think she's the one that races that Tiger Stripe R6 in Super Sport.
Okay.
She's like, how's Jake's confidence? Any plans on building his ego back up before next season? You know, like sending him to Chuck Wall to spank club dudes.
Come on. I don't think his ego took a hit at all.
No.
If anything, I think we just ran out of time.
Yeah.
You know, we just ran out of time.
I saw
every session we improved, and we would have been, if we were there for 3 more days, we would have improved every single day.
Right. Well, I did see somebody, I think they were a commenter on MotoAmerica's post about Jake being out there. And the guy's like, oh, see, now he take him down a peg, you know, get his ego in check. And I'm like, dude, have you ever met Jake? Like,
Jake has no ego.
That dude is like the most chill dude ever.
I mean, he has a lot of confidence, but he isn't outright bold about it.
No.
You know, I mean, he's like the coolest guy I ever worked with.
Yeah.
That's why it's hard to kind of be tough on him sometimes. You go, hey, you got to do this, or hey, you got to do that. He knows what he needs to do, and I think we know where we needed to be. Like I said, it just that there just wasn't enough sessions in the day. 2 sessions, and then you got to go qualify. You know, so it was definitely, or 3 sessions, then you got to qualify. So it wasn't very much time to get everything in that mindset and that track and everything figured out, all the nuances of it.
And Chloe, you know, the
Harley chick.
Privateer data.
Isn't that rude to call her a chick?
I don't know.
I'm old school. We say that.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
She's like, if you go back, would you try their tank setup, you know, like with weight towards the back?
No.
Consider this for the 2023 bike in MotoAmerica.
No. No. I mean, call it whatever. It's no. We'll just change the geometry of the bike for the CG to work with what we have.
There you go. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, is it just because like why wouldn't you try it?
I have to go down this road. Because it's a pretty big exercise to go, and I mean, it sounds like you just snap your fingers and do. For us to do that, we'd have to change all the wiring on our bike, change where the ECU sits, change the subframe, basically change the whole motorcycle.
Okay.
The rake, the trail, all that stuff would have changed. Everything that we work towards now, we'd have to throw it away and start over again.
Okay.
And it may not even work on the Dunlops.
Right.
Because we've already kind of been there before. You know, back in 2015, let's say.
Yeah.
You know, we had super stock bikes that had fuel under the tail because you were allowed to change the fuel tank back then.
Oh, that's right.
So we put the fuel way back there, and we had the EC way back in the tail, and so the CG and the balance of that bike, and then we had a half-degree steering head angle, and we had a bunch of stuff like it was very similar to what they're using now. But that was way back then, and it would take so much work that we basically have to start over again with our motorcycles. So I think we'll just keep going the path we're going. We have to just get for the Pirellis, we have to get the rider confidence up, and maybe it's just a matter of changing some of the dimensions, but it doesn't necessarily change the fuel tank location and the ECU and the harness and all that stuff.
Right. And like, am I crazy to think that the way your tank setup is without the subframe has like a better crashability factor? Is that a factor at all? Or
yeah, it's easier to change, without a doubt. If those guys break their subframe, they got a lot of work.
Okay.
You know, the ECU's back there and the harness and a bunch of stuff's back. They have to swap it all out. I'm sure they have it somewhat clean as far as how fast they could do it, but it's a lot more work than 4 screws with a new tank and a new tank and seat, and you're down the road again. The other thing too with our particular setup, which those guys looked at pretty closely, was the where we carry the fuel a little lower than they do too, which would help their braking as well. So that's why I'm not 100% convinced that putting it all up high in the tail is the way to go. I think that carrying it a little bit lower will help us as well. And I think it's been good for us for the anti-wheelie and the acceleration. We got to complete the circle with a braking part.
So was there one like aha moment that you're going to be like, shit, man, we're going to take that and use that or try that on Dunlops?
We have a few things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, like looking at their data and seeing where we're strong and where they're strong, and where areas where we definitely need to improve and areas where we're pretty freaking good. So there's a few ahas and pats on the back too.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
Hey, our acceleration is pretty good there. Hey, our anti-wheel is really good right there.
Yeah.
Our TC, not so bad. Engine braking on the Pirelli, we need to work on that. That was bad. At least the perception of what was right and wrong was bad. And for sure building up the confidence and the way the bike hooks at the apex and how we approach the last, let's say the first third of the corner, the inline braking to getting pointed at the apex. I think those areas of getting the throttle open before the apex, which Jake is generally really good at, but I think we just couldn't get the bike pointed at the apex before he could open the throttle.
Yeah.
And so he had to back up his brake marker to accomplish that, and hence the low trap speed and giving up, harder to pass people that are slower than you, things of that nature. I think that those were a lot of aha moments. The other thing too was the internal pressures in the tires and the temperatures and the stability that the factory team had versus us. We're getting rise in the front and rear tires through the race and then drop off at the end. And then as the thing rose, I think that was, not sure 100%, but I think that was related to the front grip. The front grip feeling like we didn't have enough. And that was one of the things that Jay complained about, was on the corner exit, opening the throttle, the front would close, and but it wasn't unpredictable. So we played around with the pressures. I mean, we ran some ridiculously low pressures in the front Pirelli because the steel belted tire, versus the Dunlop, which isn't. You got to run more pressure in the Dunlop. So there was a bunch of things that we learned that for sure we can put into our program going forward. And I think it's going to make Jake a better rider again.
Yeah.
We're not mixing it up with those guys and seeing areas he can work on.
Well, when you're talking about the tire pressures, I mean, on the grid, there was a dude that would come and check and make sure that you had the minimum. Your Pirellis have like a rule, I guess, where you had to have at least, was it
1.6 bar on the rear?
Yeah.
If you didn't make 1.6 bar, you had to start the pit lane after you put air in your tire.
Yeah. So comparatively, what's 1.6 in PSI?
23 PSI.
It's 23?
Yeah, for guys who are still talking the old English medieval shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Inches.
Americans.
Yeah, thumbs and fingers and yards and all that weird stuff. A foot, it's exactly like the size of your foot almost.
I mean, Oscar came up to me and was like, make sure that you tell the boys it has to be at least it's got to be over 1.6.
Yeah, it has to be 1.6 or above. So
and I told
here's
Lee,
another
he's
something
like,
that we learned. So we have those covers that go onto the bike. So, and then Lee told me this, and I don't mind sharing this. He said that he told me this after the fact, but he went up and it was on the grid, set the pressure to 1.61 or whatever it was, just slightly over.
Yeah.
Put the tire cover over it, and the thing dropped pressure.
Really?
Yeah, because the tire cover actually is a heat sink, not a source.
Okay.
So the tire cover actually took away some of the heat and lowered the tire pressure. So when the guy came by to check, he was like 1.598 or something like that. And the guy's like, his eyes got all big, and Lee's just holding it, and you see the gauge just go tick to 1.6.
Oh man.
He's like, woo! The guy's like, wow, shaking his head. But so we started talking to Greg over, Kappa USA, and he's going to be getting us some of the heated tire covers.
Okay.
So tire covers, and then the other thing too was that we learned was getting the internal temperature up. So we have the TPMS, you can see on the dash what the internal temperature is, where you can check it on your data. And so looking at the temperature on that particular track too, where you have slow corners and really high speed stuff where things get to cool off and they climb when you G out, stuff like that. getting the tire stability on the inside was super important. So we learned a little bit about that and how effective the grip throughout the race. So Capit makes a warmer that's got rim, that has rim warmers. It's a little more high end, but it'll actually heat up your wheel.
Yeah.
And so we're going to work on a strategy for the Dunlops. And on the 15th and 16th, I think we're going to go out. On the 15th, we test with Dunlop at Butwillow. They have a Q4, like a press launch.
Okay.
And we're going to test different temperatures for different durations and to see if it affects the tire and how it affects it. Because remember, I think our last conversation, the Ducati guys were talking about us having cheater tires or some crap like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, like Dunlop is giving us cheater tires or something.
You have the goo that you paint.
The goo that we're like splashing on there in the bathtub in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it turned out that those guys said that they were heating their tires up for like 3 hours and the performance was bad. And so we're going to do a test where we heat up the Dunlop for 4 hours, then 2 hours and 1 hour, and have Jake go run around and see if there's any difference. Like start one at 4 hours, start the other one 2 hours later, start the other one an hour later, and then throw the tires in, boom, 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 one at a time.
Yeah.
You know, start with the one that's the coldest or the least to the next one, do like a 5 or 6 lap run and see if the performance falls off and how it falls off, if it's any different. I venture to say it's probably not going to be dramatic, but I think if you did a long run with the one you heated less, or depends how you heat it. If you heat the rim or you heat the tire, if you heat the rim, the internal is going to be up, so the tire will be more stable. So maybe you heat the tire a little bit less, heat the rim more. You follow what I'm saying? So it's the technology of how to heat it. And that's one of the things too that the world guys were talking about was how they've, I wouldn't say mastered, but how they've gone closer to perfection with how they're heating their tire. So the performance throughout the whole time.
What you were saying, a couple of the guys, I think it was Lee that talked about it first, but he's like, yeah, dude, those other guys, all those other teams, every other team has like tire ovens. And
some of them turn on automatically.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we were starting 3 hours early with a brother. So that means that if we were on track at 9, we would have to be at the track at 6 a.m. to plug our stuff in.
Oh wow.
That means that's why I was saying that the cappuccino machine was really good, because that means we're getting up around 5, you know, to make it there at 6. So if we're having dinner at 7 in the hospitality, by the time you get back to the hotel, you know, hang out with the boys for an hour or two, you know, take a little leisure time because we're really tourists, and then get your room, you might get 3 or 4 hours sleep.
Yeah.
You know, so the cappuccino was really important.
The Yamaha Hospitality was really important.
Yes, it kept us fed and it kept us caffeinated.
Yeah.
But so some of those guys had automatic turn on warmers. So you set the time and then boom, click, will come on and start heating the tires. And the yard guys had all the TPMS and their little tire oven, that little computer sitting up on top of it, and they could see what every single tire was as far as internal temperature and skin temperature.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so the tire warmer temperature and as far as what was the air was inside the tire.
So Greg's going to be providing that to the team for next season?
Yeah, we're working with them on that. I mean, we already have rim warming warmers, and we had some there. I don't think we used them as effectively as we should have. So again, another rookie mistake. How many rookie mistakes am I up to now? Like 4 or 5? I
don't know, man. We're like, I gotta get my spiral notebook.
Yeah, I've got a whole book of rookie mistakes that we made. Yeah. At the end, you know, we went there as kind of a bonus for the crew, and they all had a great time. You know, I think it was a lot of fun, and even Lisbon was fun, and Portimao was fun. You know, walked around the place a little bit.
The cobblestone streets.
Yeah, the people were friendly. You know, like I said, we pretty much emptied out everybody's liquor cabinet, and we're all good.
So I got some more questions.
Yeah.
Chloe asked, does everyone in World Superbike use the Morelli ECU and strategy?
I don't know about all the teams, but I think most of them do. I don't know about the BMW teams. I remember they were messing around a few years back with different ECUs, but for sure Yamaha does, and for sure Ducati does. Honda, I'm pretty sure Honda does.
Chiquetto says that yeah, Kawi, Yamaha, and Ducati all use Morelli, and then BMW uses their own ECU, and Honda's on Morelli, but it's like up to the manufacturer to dictate the ECU that must be used.
Yes. So there is what they call a kit. Okay, the World Superbike electronics kit, and it's up to the manufacturer to determine what's inside that kit, but all has to come in a certain price, like €8,000, whatever it is.
Right.
So now it's $8,000, which is really reasonable, considering that the ECU by itself at some points costs as much as that. So what's happening is the manufacturer subsidizes the cost of the kit. So if you're in the program, you get the low price kit, but the manufacturer kind of eats it a little bit, trying to help out the smaller guys.
Okay.
You follow what I'm saying? And they have to provide the software to the smaller teams.
Yeah.
Along with updates. And it's made World Superbike racing quite a bit better.
Okay.
Tell Chuck to shut up. He doesn't know anything.
Well, I mean, we already
Hey,
established
Chuck shows up to Portimao with a backache, right? Just so he can go find the good pharmaceuticals. I think he made all that shit up.
Chiquetto was so funny, man. Like that dude, he showed up to the track and didn't stop talking until he left. I think he didn't stop talking until he left like the country.
I think he was talking all the way through the plane.
Oh man, that dude's so fun. Like he's hilarious. I was talking to Will earlier. Like Will called me up asking me who our painter is.
Yeah.
Wanted Matt's info. And we were talking about the trip, and he's like, dude, check
Matt from Color Zone, right around the corner from us.
Yes.
Who did a great job on our World Superbike stuff, by the way.
Yes, he did. Yes,
that looked really nice.
Of course. Yeah, always. Dude, Matt's the best.
Yes.
You just gotta be patient, right? Just gotta.
Dude, all painters you have to be patient with, but you know what? Matt always gets it done.
Yeah.
Like we need 5 sets done before the truck leaves. It may be right when the truck's rolling away, he's pushing the stuff in the door, but it's done.
Yep. Yeah, I really appreciate Matt's hard work, but yeah, so I give him that, and like Will was saying some stuff. He's like, dude, Chiquetto was hilarious. So I told him, Chiquetto is basically like a real life cartoon. He's like a cartoon character. Don't you think? Like he's hilarious.
He was networking everybody over there.
Yes, he was.
He is a networking guy.
He had your braking dude all cornered.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right?
David was probably trying to run away from there.
Oh, man.
That was a lot of fun, though, because, when you go to one of these events, a lot of the guys who are your European sponsors, you never meet.
Yeah.
Like David, I never even met him. I didn't know what he looked like. But he's been supporting us for the last 3 years, right? And supporting the factory team more longer than that. So,
and he communicates with me over the Instagram account. He's like, I got stuff for you guys. I'm like, I'll tell the skipper, And then he comes up, he's like, oh, it's nice to finally meet you. I've been talking to you for 2 years. I'm like, yeah, no, cool.
And just in case people don't know how this carnet thing works, you go there with a certain amount of weight in your crate, and you're supposed to come back with the same amount of weight. So Davida shows up with these new rotors and goes, here, takes him out his backpack. I got these rotors for you. They weigh like 30 pounds, I'm like, stack of rotors. Like, oh, what are we going to throw out? So we emptied all the oil out of the bikes. We threw out any oil we had, all the any chemicals we had, we threw out so we could kind of balance out. And all the team shirts obviously went this way and that way. So like, yeah, that's about right. So put the new rotors in the crate, and away they went.
That's hilarious, man. All right.
I think Chuck and Fernando for the first time came as a tourist.
Yeah, I got to hang out with Fernando quite a bit, and I guess I was telling Lily, I was like, yeah, like Fernando's such a cool guy. Like you got to talk to him, and she ended up talking to him, and like they were like best buddies, So that was pretty fun. And again, Chiquetto and Fernando being there, that was hilarious. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, like I said, Chaz, hooking up with Chaz for a few minutes and chatting with him and asking him if he misses riding World Superbike, and he didn't. He's having a good time. He's got another kid on the way, and he's a rider coach for Batista, and so that was kind of cool. And then Abdul was there. We'd done some work for him way back in the day when he rode World Supersport.
Yeah.
On a Kawasaki. And then
that's all those engines that Josef kept building, he's like, oh yeah, so I ended up hanging out with him quite a bit too. Like,
so he's a cool cat too. And
Kayla Yakov.
What's that?
Kayla.
Yeah, I mean, she did a really great job. And so it was pretty fun. The reception was really good. I don't know if we were there all season, we get the same reception, but it was fun for the one time.
Yeah, it was a great time from my perspective too. I mean, I got a couple more questions to get through, but
let's get to it.
Okay, because I wanted to talk about Dan being there.
Dan Mole.
Daniel Mole, like
the ugliest umbrella girl we've ever had.
He's one of the CRA partners, and he came out and he had a giant smile on his face, like a little kid who, it's like Christmas morning every day for him. It was so funny. And
I'm glad he enjoyed himself.
Yeah, going out on the grid, he's like, dude, this is cool. I was like, I know. So Dan had a great time. Obviously Greg Capit, that dude he looked like he had a great time. So
he brought his girlfriend Carla.
Yeah,
she's super nice.
Yeah, that's another thing. Carla, and I can't remember what Dan's gonna probably kick. Oh, Jamie.
Jamie,
Carla and Jamie.
I ruined Jamie's pass because I spelled it wrong. Her email, her name, everything. She shouldn't get it. And Daniel, he kept emailing me. She hasn't got her pass yet. She hasn't got her pass yet. I go, don't worry about it. I got it under control. The day we were flying, it's finally got all worked out.
Yeah, so those two ended up out back with Lily, and then on the receiving end of epic Chuck Giacchetto stories. So
yeah.
Yeah. So
if I didn't want to talk to someone, I just sent Chuck on him.
Oh wow.
One of the factory guys, he had a rear brake system that he wanted to sell, and the dude's like pressure sales guy, man. Like you're sitting there, and all of a sudden he pops up. He's sitting behind you. He's like, "Well, you gonna take it with you? Take what? The brakes. How much you want for them? €1,000 each." I'm like, let me think about it because I haven't really put together a plan. I like to plan things out. I'm not into. So like, hey Chuck, talk to him about the brakes real quick. Chuck ended up walking away with €1,000 brake lever.
Oh man. That's hilarious.
I sticked him on it. I said, yeah. Hey Chuck, just go hang out with him a bit. I think Chuck will warm out.
Okay, so that Pinky dude has a question for me. Actually, would I ever invite Scott Redding to do a track day? Since sometimes he stays in Thousand Oaks. You sure?
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Absolutely. The guy's a world level rider.
Dude's a legend, right? So yeah. He's hilarious too. He's all like he's kind of like their wild guy over there, right?
Used to be.
Yeah, he used to be. Now he's like kind of more businessy, huh?
I don't know. When he was racing Top Rack and when he was the guy on the BMW, he was complaining a lot about Top Rack's riding. And I'm like, the dude should be an animal. He should be the guy giving it to him, not worrying about how close Top Rack was. I think Top Rack's a pretty clean racer. He is really, really talented.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that, what you see on his data and how he uses it, he's really talented.
Yeah, the guys were telling me about Top Rack too, but they were saying that at least the parts guy in the semi truck, was telling me that when they come to a track, they bring like 15 right boots for him and 8 lefts.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that like the team has to make sure he's got 15 right boots and 8 lefts.
His rear brake usage with the lever is really, really good. Like really? in certain areas. There's some areas where I would do the strategies different to not have him use as much control. Or he's really trying to defeat wheelies and things like that. I think you could do it with ECU probably as good as he can, or maybe a bit better. I don't know. But I think that he's so good that the factory teams have let him do it.
I mean, yeah, the dude's a beast.
The control he shows, like I said, just when you see some of these data, and I can't really show it, it's too bad. But when you see somebody's data, you kind of like a little insight in their head and the way they ride, because they're applying all the pressure, you know, rear brake, front brake, throttle, all that stuff they're applying. You can see it all on the lawn, on the grass. And you have a real good insight on how scared is this guy.
Yeah.
You know, how in control he is. I'm talking about fearless in control. It's just amazing.
Right. So it was a while ago. I can't remember who asked it, but like, you know, while you're looking at other people's data and you're seeing what's going on out there, like, who impressed you the most? I mean, was it Toprak or?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. From what I saw, I mean, I don't know. I don't have Batista's data. I know that bike's a freaking rocket ship. The guy's a midget. He rides it pretty good. He definitely knows how to pick the bike up and accelerate. And but I know the Yamaha guys are super frustrated with the advantage that the Ducati has. But then you look at Rinaldi and he's not doing so good. So it's kind of a hard thing to do. Like, you know, Rinaldi's bike isn't that fast.
For one rider.
What's that?
You can't really penalize a bike for one rider.
Well, yeah, because otherwise they would have cut back all the Kawasaki's from what Ray did for 6 years, right?
Right.
I mean, like Rinaldi's best speed, I think I said that was what was it, 309.6. You know?
Yeah.
And Toprak's was 317.8, and Batista's was 315.
Yeah.
But that's the braking zone thing, you know? That doesn't say how fast the bike is. That's all like how, more than likely, the Ducatis are so freaking fast they had to brake before the trap speed. And that's what they hit going past the trap speed on the brakes, because their bike is probably going 320, you know, before it gets there.
Right.
Yeah, I believe
That
that.
thing's a missile.
Yeah.
You know, taking my phone and sitting it on the edge of the wall right there, when they go by, it's like, whoa.
No, I mean, I said that from day one. The worst thing on that bike is the chassis. The engine's like a MotoGP engine with a camshaft instead of gear drive. You know, so it's a pretty unfair advantage, only in that they have such a high rev limit, 16,500 RPMs, right? Where the Yamaha's at 14,950. I think the Cowie's is pretty close. They're all within 100, 200. I think the Honda is like 15.5, if I remember right. I could be wrong on that. And so that RPM thing's a really big deal. So I asked Dawson at the end of the weekend, I said, you know, Toprak did a great job, but are you a little frustrated that and he goes, no, he brought it. It was a really frustrating race too. He goes, Toprak's riding so hard, and then the Ducati just no draft rate, that just rides right around him. I said, and I asked Scott Smart about that too. I said, you get a lot of grief for that Ducati? He goes, every single day. You know, but then he goes into his technical way of how they balance all. You can't just do this guy only. You look at all the other competitors on the Ducati and where are they at? You know, Rinaldi finished what, 4th, I think. You know, so he got beat by Ray and Toprak. Yeah. So I don't know. And Lowe's was in there, and Locatelli was in there, Redding was in there. You know, so it's a fair mix of. So I think it's a tough job to be Scott Smart, try to balance all that out.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about Scott Smart. I mean, he came by the pit a few times, but you know, one of the things I noticed that is there's a lot of people coming to shake your hand, dude. Like there's a lot.
I've talked to Scott Smart for quite a few years now, and you know, I respect everything he's doing in the World Championship. And so, I mean, he's fun to talk to too, because he's a very technical guy and he understands ECUs and understands the bikes, and I think his background's in physics or something like that. Right. And so, yeah, I enjoy talking to that guy. Yeah,
there was a lot of guys like that would just come by and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" You know, Donkers came by.
Sonner Donker. I guess he signed a deal with HRC to be their data guy, or one of the data guys. I think he's doing it now or something. So I asked him because he wanted to help us that weekend, but again, one of those too many cooks spoil the pot thing, and the whole shipping thing was such a nightmare that I really didn't have time to get back with Sonder on that. And it's been fun to have him in the paddock, but you know, I think if we had too many guys in our pit looking at the data, I think it would have been a less open book with the factory guys, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, you know, the other thing I noticed was there was a lot of former racers that you seem to know.
Yeah.
were coming by to like try to get their kid a ride.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what are you guys doing at Daytona? You need a guy to ride a 600 at Daytona?
Yeah. I mean, you get a lot of that as a team owner, but I don't.
And not just Michael Hill's kid.
Yeah.
Not just him.
Yeah. There's a lot of guys pushing whatever. I don't know. They on TV, I guess the MotoAmerica paddock looks like it's much more affluent than it really is. I think there's a lot of rides around, but there really isn't that many rides.
Yeah.
There's only a few teams that are really paying decent money. So it's hard to go and go, oh yeah, we can set you up on a junior bike or some crap like that. We don't have it.
Well, that's the big thing I saw. Just there was a couple of differences from my perspective. Number one, obviously, is comparing World Superbike paddock to MotoAmerica paddock was the severe lack of toy haulers and vans. Like, it was every team from top to bottom, World Supersport, all the way down to the 300 Supersport, whatever it was. Everybody was in a semi.
It's a particular kind of semi.
What?
A particular kind of semi.
Yes.
The Euro style. And I look at trucks because we have trucks,
Yes.
and so I was walking around looking at every single one of them and how nice they are. And you can see some of them were handed down, I think, because they went down. As you got closer to the end of the paddock, past the Cali guys, you started seeing some degradation in the year or the wheels and the tires and the finish.
Or you could tell that one was like a converted cargo, moving van or something, truck, but it was still painted up.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
Looks exactly the same. And some of the insides are not as nice as ours.
Right.
Our Yamaha rig. I mean, our Yamaha, it's just a different way of doing business. Their stuff gets their equipment to the racetrack.
Right.
Our transporter is the workshop.
Right.
Is the garage. So our inside turns into workstations, computers, and things like that, and data, and then a pop-up with all our stuff out there we're really comfortable in. So for us to work out of a couple crates was pretty, I wouldn't say it's difficult, but it's definitely makes you think about what's the least amount of stuff I can get away with.
Right.
Paul Denning from Crescent, the factory team, the Yamaha team, he came by after we wrapped up our crates. He's like, "You guys only have 2 crates?" He's like, "Holy shit, we have 26.
Of course they have 26 crates.
I know, but you think about it, that's 13. Let's say we just even split in half. It's 13 crates for one rider.
Yeah.
We did it all in 2 crates, but we still had 3,000 pounds of stuff.
Right.
You couldn't push the crate around. It was so heavy.
Wow.
And then the funny part was we're trying to load up. And another thing, like the things you learn is how the forklifts are being used at the end of the day. Right. So we're kind of waiting around, being nice guys, all polite. Oh, could you, when you guys are done, maybe we'll go and borrow the forklifts so we can load our crates into the vans and send them up to the airport. John's all, screw that. He walks over to a couple forklifts that are parked and steals one. And then he just picked up our crates and shoved them in the van, and off we went.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah, like, what's John doing? I told Will, I think it's John's trying to steal a forklift. He's all, I love John.
Well, the other thing, it just seemed like there was just a lot more money over there. I mean, Paul was, Denning was saying that they look like they have more than they do.
Same as us, right?
Yeah, but I'm like,
we look like we have
26 full-time employees on the circus, man. Like, what do you mean?
Well, their budget for sure is bigger, way bigger than us. But
Yeah.
you look at our show and you go, wow, those guys have really got a lot of money. And
Right.
it's just a couple guys in our shop working hard to make bikes, and then we go to the racetrack and have a bunch of flying guys, and they all wear the nice shirts, and we have the nice awning, and the truck is always clean. So it looks like we got millions and millions of dollars. It's not true.
The other thing I noticed, there was in the paddock, there was a difference between the fans and the vending. Over there was quite a bit less fans there than I expected.
Yeah, that was strange. I think it's got to do with the whole Euro crisis right now with energy.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I mean, when you were in Paris, right? Did you fly through Paris?
No.
I flew through Paris. The airport was warm and none of the escalators worked.
Yeah.
So they're trying to really energy savings thing and this whole Ukraine-Russia war thing, and then the
In Spain, nobody used air conditioning.
or deodorant. I don't know.
No, but I mean, you know, the fans, there was less fans, but the fans that were there were quite a bit more fanatic than the fans here.
Yes.
So like the average fan there was like the CFE dudes, right?
Miguel, the guy who did the shipping for us, like he had the crates picked up at the airport in Lisbon, took them to the track, picked them back up, and then put them on a flight on TAP, which is their Portuguese cargo thing.
Yeah.
And shipped them back. That dude was like road track days at Portimao.
Okay.
You know, he had an Aprilia and a Ducati and this and that, and then he was off riding up in the mountains when the weekend happened on his motorcycle. You know, I think he went to Barcelona with his bike. So everybody there is knows the sport, knows motorcycles a way of life kind of thing.
Well, you guys were in the garage, and Daniel and I went out and were handing out posters and stickers. I mean, literally all the fans knew who Jake was. Oh, American Campeón. Right?
Yeah, that's another thing that was very impressive was how many people watched our series, MotoAmerica.
Yes.
Like a lot of paddock watch. It's because guys like Baz come there and they go, okay, let's see what Baz is going to do. Or guys like Petrucci come there, oh, let's see what Petrucci's going to do. You know, and they see Jake and our team doing well, and people know that, they understand that, and they've been watching. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I walked out of there Sunday with a stack of posters like that thick and was handing them out because they cut us off. Like there was a huge line of people trying to get posters and they kicked them out, right?
Yeah, because the fan walk is a certain window and that's it.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, probably in a 2-minute window, I must have passed out over 1,000 TrackDaz stickers. They eat all that stuff up. And then the posters, I mean, we kept blowing through posters like crazy and they all wanted it. So anyway,
more questions?
I think we're good, dude. I mean, you know, there's a couple more, but like we've kind of covered it, like the biggest challenges setting up a bike between the tires, you know?
Yeah.
Using
that the biggest, one more time, using the biggest difference is how to use that front tire.
So I'm just hoping that you learned something about this that I could benefit from. Selfishly.
I think we helped you with that before. You were like soft springs on your bike that you had to brake early.
Yep.
I think Jake might be suffering from some of that as well.
Okay.
Because it works on our racetracks. But when we go there, I think that we have to put our mindset on much heavier braking and still getting the apex. Much heavier. You know, so I think that's the area, like how do we get him the confidence with our setup to make him brake past those brake markers, you know, and down the hill and still hook the corner. So those are areas I think that we learned the most. And a lot of it was how to use that front tire.
I mean, that's like the name of the whole story. The summary of it is like, yep. Couldn't get the front tire the rider to be comfortable on it. Like,
yeah, pretty much. I think that sums it up. It's kind of a broad statement, but yeah. It was certain parts were good. Like Jake had when you look at our lean angle and versus top rack, Jake had really pretty high lean angle, like higher than I think Locatelli might have had a little bit more in a couple spots, but Jake was generally higher than lean angle. And so the grip on the edge was really good. It was just like driving off. How does that front tire feel? And then how does it feel braking to the apex?
Like what were you were talking about the 1.6 thing on the rear. Like what were you doing on the front?
Anywhere from 2.0 to 2.2, let's say. Somewhere in that range, 2.1, which is about 29 to 31 psi.
That's a lot lower than what we run at the club.
Yeah, and you shouldn't run it that high.
Yeah.
Not with that tire.
Okay.
I know that you know we started running the Pirellis. We were in the 2.5 something, I think it was. So it was like 40 psi.
Yeah, 38.
Yeah, no grip.
Yeah.
Yeah, it grips like a Dunlop. You know,
Okay.
but when you're able to run those lower pressures, because the Pirelli's changed quite a bit from the days that when Chaz Davies rode our Formula Extreme bikes.
Right.
You know, I think the construction's changed and the stability on the front's changed, and the guys are able to push that front tire pretty hard. And the world guys complain because they think that the Bridgestone's better or whatever on the front, or the Michelin MotoGP tire, but we think it's pretty freaking good on the front tire, you know. And Dunlop has a new front. We might be able to test on the 15th and 16th, and it might bridge the gap. And if that happens, then guess what? We're going to be braking that hard and turning that hard like a Pirelli does. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I don't think we can run those pressures with a Dunlop. It's made out of a different material.
Okay.
You know, the belts are different. I don't think they're ever going to put a steel belt.
And were you guys running like a one front or a two front or
SC1?
Yeah, a one front. Okay.
Standard one. I don't know if the world ones, because every time you say a one, that doesn't mean anything really. There's a compound that they constantly, like the ones constantly being developed, 0 and the 2s. They're all kind of like, we don't know what the compound really is. You know, maybe Oscar knows. But the one they use there, I think is the same one that you would use at a club thing. But there was a couple different ones. There was a one, and then there was a one with a little stiffer construction with a little softer compound, also called SC1, like we call the development tire. And then there was another one with a slightly different construction too. We chose the standard one. It was the most predictable.
Okay.
And the guys on the factory team were saying that Top Rack ran the standard one, I think in race 1, race 2. Maybe I might be getting my facts mixed up. He went with the other construction, but it's a little bit less, it's more grip, less predictable. So he must have had similar kinds of, you know, grip issues maybe as we did. Just, you know, it was just a safe race for us, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. And then on the rear, you guys run the X?
1.
Oh, you ran a 1 on the rear.
Yeah, for there's so much heat in the last corner. You know, it was 14 or 15, whatever it is, it leads on straight. It like kind of G's out and comes up over a rise and gets on the front straight. And they're long accelerating corners. The last couple of corners, it just puts a lot of heat on the right side. So you couldn't run an X in the race, but the 1 would make the race no problem.
Okay.
Yeah, we only ran the X in the Super Bowl race. No, we didn't even run the X in the Super Bowl race. It was too cold. The temperature was too low. We ran the X in qualifying, Super Bowl.
Okay.
Yeah, unless he did a 41.1, I think it was, almost a 40 in Super Bowl. So I thought, okay, we're on the right track. We just couldn't maintain that momentum.
Well, man, you know what? I appreciate all your time and sharing with me all the insight there and sharing with everybody, actually.
Yeah, you bored me to death. Sorry.
Oh, shut your mouth. You're such a complainer.
Yes.
But yeah, I guess see you in a couple of weeks at that test. Do you want me to go to run timing, or what do you?
Of course, man. That's your job. Timing bitch, right?
Huh? Timing
bitch.
Yeah. Soon to be cup of tea engineer.
Cup of tea engineer. Yeah, I like tea. I like coffee too.